Hi guys and girls on YouTube, welcome to my channel. One of my YouTube viewers has sent this TV in for repair. Now it's badged on the front, Granada colour, but I believe it's a Rediffusion Mark 4, and that logo there is the Rediffusion logo. Now it's a long time since I repaired anything like this, probably the mid 1980s. So on the basis it is a Rediffusion Mark 4. The only thing I can remember about this particular chassis is the power supply used to be mounted vertically, and there was a blue chopper transformer encased in resin that was very heavy, and it used to get dry jointed. So we'll just turn this telly round, we'll have a quick look, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to dig out the service manual, because I can't remember any of the faults on these apart from dry joints on the chopper transformer. So let's have a quick look at the back of the telly first. So that's the back of the telly. It says it's Teletext. Now it is an ex-rental telly, because I remember these blue stickers from the rental company when I used to buy tellies from Mantles in Manchester. And what makes this unusual is it's got AV inputs as well as an aerial socket, so it's a fully isolated chassis. But first of all, let's get out the service manual. Right, so I've got out my Rediffusion service manuals. If you look there, that is the logo that appears on the telly, so definitely a Rediffusion this. I think there was a Mark 1, a valve hybrid, I've got one of those. I don't think there was a Mark 2, there was a Mark 3 which used a thyristor line output stage. I've got one of them, and I'm not sure if there wasn't a Rediffusion Mark 4 which was a portable, which was just a badged up sharp telly. But let's have a look through this collection of manuals first. Right, so I've got the manuals out. Now obviously I must have done quite a few of these, because on the front of here there's quite a few of my handwritten notes, which I've completely forgot about since the 1980s. So I think the best thing to do is we'll get the back off first and have a look inside. Right, so that's the back off. This is the set I remember, and I'll show you where the chopper transformer is. That's the power supply board mounted vertically there. The chopper transformer is there, and it's got some sort of cover on, and you can see it's a great big heavy thing. So if we move around here, it used to get dry joints on all these pins. Now they look like they've been done, but and it's probably not evident in the camera. If you look very closely, yeah, it probably won't show up on the camera, but there is a dry joint on that pin there, so that'll need attending to before we turn on. Let's turn around here. That's the line output panel in the bottom. Now according to my service information, these two different panels fitted. He seems to have a different frame output IC on one panel, but I think all these diagrams should do, and I've got lots of notes here about dry joints on the line output panel, so we'll have to have a good look at that before we turn it on. So let's have a look. It's fitted with a video colour tube, probably not the best of tubes. I don't know what it'll be like. It looks like this has had quite a lot of use in its day. And there's a nice little thing. Look, ICs that plug in. You fit a base and then you can just swap the IC in a couple of minutes, rather than unsoldering the whole IC. A very nice touch. If we look down there, there's two more ICs in sockets. That will be the remote control panel. The Teletext panel is down the side here, yeah. That looks like the tuning panel. That's the decoder with a red, green, blue output. But I would imagine in a set like this, most faults would occur on the bottom panel. or the side panel there. In fact, if we have a look at that tripler, there's something been going on here, because that's the focus control. You can see where somebody's melted that onto there with a soldering iron. So I'm not sure if that's the right tripler or not, or somebody's just changed this control and that control's not the right one. And the reason I say is the earth wire would just come down here straight into ground, but if you look, somebody's added a pair of resistors in some sleeving connected to the ground. So at one time something here has been changed. It might be that the focus control went faulty and they cut one off another old tripler and just put a couple of resistors in to make the right value, or it might be the whole tripler that's wrong. But I really don't know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look round for dry joints, especially on this bottom panel, and take a look at that before we even think about turning it on. That's the tube base there. Yes, and as you can see, it's very, very dirty. That actually should be green, or a lot greener than it is there. So I think the first thing to do is to attend to these dry joints here. Right, so that's the dry joints done on the chopper transformer, and the dry joint was actually on this one here, which according to the circuit diagram is winding B of the chopper transformer, secondary. So there we go, that's winding B, and now that's actually the 230 volt rail. So 230 volt, that you would assume that just feeds the video output stage. There we go, 230. So if we go over there, yeah, it does in fact feed the video output stage. So you'd lose it with an open circuit there. You'd lose the collector voltage on the transistor. You'd have no picture. But interestingly enough, if we follow 230 volt rail there, it also splits and it comes this way, and it goes through a resistor to the tuning voltage regulator. So not only would you lose the picture, you'd also lose the sound, because the tuning would go off, because we'd have no 33 volt rail to the tuner, so you wouldn't be able to tune anything. So I would imagine that is the problem that this set had. But really now, I've looked underneath, I can't see any dry joints on the line scan. I'm not sure about that tripler yet, but we do have a part number on it. So what I'm going to do is reform the main reservoir capacitor, which is there. Is it that one there? Or is it that one there? No, I think it's that one there. Anyway, we're going to reform the main cap and then we'll switch it on and see what happens. Right, so sometime later that's done. We can turn that off now. And I think in view of the amount of dirt around the anode cavity, I'm going to have to clean this off before I plug it in, because we don't want any flashovers under there. So I'll take out the anode cap. That's not too bad under there, but that's very dirty. We'll clean all this out first and then we'll go for the switch on. Right, so that's a whole lot better now. You can see it's nice and shiny. So now we're just ready to refit this and then we'll plug it in. There we go. That's the anode cavity EHT cap refitted. Right, let's turn it around and see what happens. Now, one little peculiarity about these sets before I turn it on concerns the on and off switch. The on and off switch actually has a relay on the back. So once this set's turned off, you can't turn it back on with a remote control. You have to press this button back in. Let me see if we can just demonstrate on here. So that's the that's now in the on position. Get that out of the way. And when you operate this relay, which I'm going to do just in there, the switch clicks out again. The only way you can turn the set back on is by pressing it in. Right, here we go. Let's plug it in, see what happens. Let's make sure it's off there. Finger on the button in case anything goes wrong so we can turn it back off quick. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we've got EHT, there's a hissing noise. And we have a raster. Right, let's see if we can get this tuned into a signal from a skybox. Right, so I can't remember how you tune these now. There's a lot of controls in there. Install switch that moves over. I think the best thing to do is just step up the channels and see if there's anything tuned in. I've got the skybox connected. If you look at that, we've got on-screen display as well. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got something there on number 12. Right, that's TV guide on Sky. That's actually not too bad actually. There's a little bit of flaring around the blue. But the tube is a lot better than what I thought it might have been. There's something going on there because the brightness won't go fully down. That's fully down and it's not that dark. It'll go a lot brighter, but it won't go fully down. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Let's just get a picture on now. That's Skybox on colour bars. Yeah, there's a bit of a frame problem there at the top, probably a dried up capacitor. Let's check for volume.
Like the transformation. I should know. I used to be a hairy caterpillar.
Find out how to help with your transformation.
Right, now let's just turn it off a minute. The volume doesn't go very high either, so I wonder if these controls here are just like a preset and you do the proper adjustment on the remote control. Now the customer did send a couple of remote controls in. I don't know if they're the right one or not. I'm just going to have to try them and see. Right, so 2 remotes been sent in. The batteries have leaked in that one. And there is a number on it which I could probably cross-reference. And then there's this one. Which I used to have one of these with I modified it with a button on the side for programming some Hitachi sets, the EEPROM. So I think probably the best thing to do is iron out the problems with the telly first, because we've got a bit of a low frame there and we've got some flyback lines, and the sound's not particularly good, which that might be the speaker's fault, it might be an electrical fault. But also I've noticed there the AV switch, that doesn't work either. I can't put it into AV either. So, and you can see the frames up there. So I think we'll probably start with the frame circuit first. So that's the TDA 1470 frame output IC. Now this is not the easiest diagram to pick out the component I want to be changing. So I've just typed in TDA 1470 on the internet and we're going to pull up a data sheet. Right, so that's it there, and the part I'm going to be interested in changing is that capacitor there for the flyback boost. But what I have noticed here is the TDA 1470 is a dual inline IC, and we don't have a dual inline IC in our set. The frame output IC is actually there, it's standing up on that heatsink, so that means that we must have the TDA 1670 scan panel fitted into this set and not the 1470. So let's just pull up the data sheet for the TDA 1670 now. Yeah, that's definitely the one we've got. So we need the flyback boost capacitor, which, what pin's that? Is it pin 15? Let's have a look on here. Yep, we need to change the capacitor connected between pin 15 and pin 2 on the service manual. So now we're working on this supplement sheet, which incidentally has a better quality print of diagramming. So what's connected between pin 15, that one there, 3C3300 microfarad. We need to change that first. And of course the easiest way to change the capacitor is just to take out the whole board. Now the focus wire's dropped off there, so that wasn't soldered on very good. Also, we can give this a bit of a clean up and have a better look at it. So that's the board in all its glory. We'll turn over and have a quick look at the underside. Right, now I've had a close look at here. I can see some more dry joints. They might not show up on the camera, but there's definitely dry joints on the frame output I see. There's a bit of a modification been done there. I don't know what for. The track's been cut and that wire's been put in. But if we look at one of the earth leads, can you see it just there? When I move this wire, so there are a few dry joints on here one to tending to. It looks like it might have had some done in the past, but I'll give that a really good going over and change that capacitor as well. Oh, and clean it up, and then we'll take another look at it. Right, so that's the flyback boost capacitor there. Let's just change that. Right, so that's better. That's hoovered out very nicely. And I think while we're at it, we might as well give the tripler a bit of a clean. You can see though I've cleaned it a bit, how dirty it actually is. So let's just clean that just for cosmetics. Right, and that's that sorted. A quick tweak of the height, and we've got a perfect frame now. Now we've still got a problem with the sound. The sound is a bit distorted. I don't know whether it's the speaker or a fault in the sound output stage, but we'll come back to that. Now, as I'm studying this diagram, I found something very, very unusual. If we take a look here at the line output transformer, you've got the primary winding to the collector of the BU208A line output transistor. You've got the EHT overwinding to the tripler. You've got another winding there that supplies the CRT heaters. And you've got another one here which according to this is just feeding back a line flyback pulse into the line oscillator. So what's unusual about this? Well, where's all the LT windings? Usually the line output stage will supply all the low voltage rails as well, but in this set all the power supply rails are actually generated by the chopper transformer. They're not generated by the line stage. So let's have a look. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different LT rails, all supplied by the power supply itself and not the line output transformer. Now that's very, very strange. So I think what I might do now is, seeing as there's so many capacitors here associated with the power supply, I might just take the power supply panel out and just check some of these capacitors for good measure. Yeah, but how strange for all them rails to have been generated in the power supply itself and not by the line flyback transformer, which only has 4 different windings. Right, so let's get the power supply board out and check that over next. Right, so we're back to this set now a few days later. I think I said last time I was going to take the power supply out and just have a really good look at that, so let's do that next. I can't remember how it comes out, but there just seems to be one screw there. I'll undo that and see what happens. Right, well that came out easy enough. There you can see your 7 rectifier diodes and your 7 capacitors that supply the 7 different rails. I think I'll give this a bit of clean up. I've already done the chopper transformer. Now the ones I remember didn't have this cable tie on holding it to the board. I don't know if this may be a later production telly, but I don't remember this cap on the top of that cable tie. So you can see with all the weight of that hanging down, that's why dry joints on there was a common problem. But I'm going to give this a clean up first. I'm also going to pay special attention to anything that gets hot, like these resistors, because they're prone to dry joints. And also that capacitor there, I'm just going to resolder that for good measure, because it's actually the snubber capacitor for the chopper transistor, and if that gets dry jointed, it almost certainly take that transistor out. So we'll give it a clean up first and then have another look. And I think while I'm at it, I've got it out, I might as well just check the value of all these capacitors as well. Right, so that's the all the points of interest resoldered, all the hot running components. If we turn over, I've checked all these capacitors and they're all absolutely fine, they're all in perfect health. Now I know these people who think recapping things will make it a lot better. I'm not a believer in recapping. It'll do absolutely nothing. I mean, don't forget this set's more than 40 years old already. So why would you put a modern part in that's not going to last another 40 years? If the caps all test alright, you might as well just leave them in. Not only that, all you do is spoil the originality. So we take that capacitor, for instance, 1000 microfarad 25 volt. Compare that with a modern one, the difference in size. So, you know, to me, recapping is just an absolute waste of time. If something's working, leave it working. If the capacitor's dried out or it's faulty, it's got high impedance, then just put a new one in. But don't go changing all the caps just for the sake of it, because somebody on the internet says, oh, it'll last a lot longer. All you'll do is you end up shortening the life, because I mean, most stuff now is absolute poor quality compared to stuff we had 40 years ago. So anyway, that's it, the power supply. That's all done. Let's fit that back in the set. Right, so there we go, the set's still working. Now what I like to do, especially with something old like this, is after every step you've done is always retry the set again. You know, you take a panel out, you do some work on it, don't just move on to the next panel, work on the next panel, switch it on every time you've done something, and then if anything goes wrong or it doesn't come on, it's a lot easier to retrace your steps and find out where you've gone wrong. But anyway, the set's back on again. So what is there left to do? Well, I can't set up the grayscale until I get one of the remote controls working, because these remotes don't go down to 0. I think they're only like preset controls. There's also the issue of the sound. I'm not sure about that yet. It might be the speaker. If it's the speaker, we're in trouble, because I wouldn't have a clue where you get one from. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And the only other thing that needs addressing, because it's got an AV input, it needs a new switch in there. It did work when I first tried it. It's very stiff, but it's obviously seized up and something's broke now. I've used quite a few of these switches when I'm building things, and they're easily available from RS Components. So I think that's all we can do for now. I'm going to come back to this another day, and hopefully I'm going to fix one of these 2 remote controls. Ideally it would look a lot better with an original, if that is the original for it. I remember these were fitted, these came with Hitachi sets, and that's like a pattern replacement one. So ideally if we could get that one going, and then we can turn these controls properly up and down, and set up the grayscale and the A1, the brightness, check everything out properly. Right, so after a short break we're back onto this Rediffusion Mark IV again. Now I've actually changed the AV switch that was broke, so we can put it into AV now. The switch is in there. I flick it up, it leaves a little red light on, and now it's waiting for an AV input. So that's that done. There's a couple of little adjustments, but one of the big problems I'm left with is the sound is very, very distorted. I think the speaker's faulty. Now I've had a look round and I've managed to find this speaker, which will probably do, but I'm going to come back to that in a minute. But just let me show you. I've actually cleaned up the remote control, the battery contacts. I've got a new battery. I've got the remote control to work now. Let's have a look on here. So that's the colour going down, colour going up, so the remote control's working. I don't know if that's the original or not, but it's got Granada on and it does work, so it's good enough. Now just one other thing, I just want to show you, these sets have a very quirky on and off switch. I've got one here and it actually has a solenoid on the back of the switch, so it's non-resettable. When you turn the set off, this springs out. You cannot turn it back on without pushing it in manually. So let me just demonstrate that for the people who haven't seen this before. Let's find the on and off button. That's the switch there. If you watch this, oh, there we go, not pointing at the right place. You see the switch clicked out. So to put the set back on, you have to do it manually. There we go. And sometimes these buttons used to spring off if they've gone a bit loose, but that one seems to be all right. Right, so the next thing to do is just try it on an AV input, and then we'll try this replacement speaker. Just hope it'll fit. So I'm just looking at some notes I made on the service manual in the 80s, and we've got one here: intermittent failure with a line output transistor caused by loose wires or soldered tinning wires in the plug. Well, I don't think that's going to be an issue with this, because that's an MK plug. And they used a different sort of wire grip, but I will just take a quick look in there and just check they're nice and tight first. And yes, that's okay, the wires haven't been tinned, they're just bare copper. Right, so I've just found another thing that needs doing. When we tried the remote control, it wasn't particularly sensitive. It actually wants this cleaning. It's not immediately obvious looking at the set, but this has obviously come from a house where somebody's been a heavy smoker, and that is very, very dirty. Now somebody's cleaned this, because if we look round the side, it's actually very, very yellow there, and if you look at the cabinet, but the front isn't. So somebody has cleaned this before they sent it in for repair, but what they've not done is they've not cleaned the lens there where the infrared signal goes in. So let's just have a quick look at this, only using a cotton bud. See how dirty that is. I'll polish it in a minute. So that's vastly improve the remote control range. Let's have a look, quick look round here. Yeah, we're going to need some more powerful cleaner to get that off, but you can see it there. There you go, look at that. Right, so I've just come to change the speaker and I've realised that at the top is not the remote control sensor, because the remote control sensor is down there. So that's why the remote wasn't working very well, because we're pointing it in the right place, in the wrong place. So I'll just give that a clean when we turn the set round, but that's the speaker there coming out. Right, so that's the speaker I found, that's the one that's coming out. It looks a pretty good match to me. That's actually out of a Thorn TX10, but it does look pretty much the same one. Right, so now we've found the correct place for the infrared sensor. We'll just give that a clean. Right, so that's the sound fault sorted. Right, so we'll just turn the volume down with the remote. That's that sorted. There's one very last thing to do, and this is probably why the customer wants this set, and that is to check that the AV input's working. So what I'm doing is I'm using this adapter into the back of the skybox, and we're just going to plug these into the back of the telly. Let's have a look here. So we got video, get the camera on, that's the video, audio, and then we'll go around the front. Let's just turn the sound up a little bit more.
He's back.
No, I said no. No.
Just pull out the aerial and then flick the AV switch in there.
No.
And that's it. That's working on AV input now.
Yeah. So I can see what's going on.
So that's absolutely perfect. We can wrap this job up now. Let's just...
Graham must see.
That's aerial.
Powerhouse.
That's AV. So there we go, that about concludes this video. Let's just change it from colour bars back onto the sky. I'll just show you once more the on and off.
And once we've got that bedded in, then we'll tackle...
And there we go. Now at this point, you would have thought I'd be packing all these away because the set's done. But would you believe it? It must be the 1980s. The mid-1980s, the last time I repaired one of these. And would you believe it? Someone else has brought one in for repair. The Rediffusion Mark 4. So let me just stand on this chair here. And we just have a look into the shop area. You can see another one in there that a different person's brought in for repair. So I'll probably be making another Rediffusion Mark IV video after this one. Alright guys and girls on YouTube, many thanks for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye.